Hello, students. Here today we will be, talking about microeconomics, which is a course which we offer in the first semester to our BBA students in Galgutia's University. And it is a very important course because it lays the foundation to your future, concepts as far as economics is concerned, as far as business decision making is concerned, as far as basic concepts around cost and revenue and profit and demand and supply and elasticity, all these concepts that you hear, they will be more easier for you to understand and to work on. Okay, because economics is very very important for any business, and as students of BBA, that is bachelor's in business administration, I don't think I need to tell you how important it is. So in the first semester we offer microeconomics, and in the second semester we have macroeconomics. Okay, so here, when we talk about microeconomics, as you would be knowing, and many of you would have also studied economics at your 10 plus 2 level, or in your class 11, or in your class 10 also. So here, when we talk about the prerequisites, it is basically, assumed or, believed that you all have a basic idea of economics. Even if you do not have that, the faculties or I particularly would be treating you as someone who does not know economics. And I'll be just starting from the very, very beginning, from the very, very basic. Okay, so and of course those students who have studied economics at the 10 plus 2 level, they would be having a certain a slight advantage, because they have already exposure to the concepts, and these concepts would not sound very new or very very complicated to them, as compared to the newer students who have never studied economics, or who are coming from the science background or any other stream. Okay, so the objective, as far as the first module which we are discussing here, we are just starting it. So it is basically a module where you are introduced to the basic, economic concepts of, say, scarcity, choice, microeconomics, macroeconomics. What is positive science? What is normative science? And is economics positive or normative? We'll just discuss all these. So basic objective, as you can see, is the describing the basic concepts and techniques of microeconomic analysis and their applications to managerial decision making to sustain the business in the long run. So here is a sort of a flow chart where you can see the microeconomics theory and what divisions it is further classified into. So there is the commodity pricing, there is factor pricing, and there is the theory of economic welfare, right? So commodity pricing is further subdivided, you can see, into demand and supply. Factor pricing, of course, rent, wages, interest, profit. And when you talk of economic welfare, we talk about what to produce, how to produce, when to produce, for whom it is to be produced. Okay. So, if I introduce economics to you, the basic premise of economics, or the what we can say is the reason why economics exists in the first place, is because there is a huge mismatch between our demands and the resources available to fulfill those demands. Okay, so now the next question comes as to, what are these wants, these desires, these wishes that we want. So these human wants are all the goods and services, that we desire as individuals, and it is a fact that the sum total of all human wants can never be fully satisfied, right? Because if your physical wants are satisfied, you may start to have some other wants, some higher order wants. And economic resources then are the inputs or means of producing the goods and services that we want. So when we talk of wants, there are wants on the one hand and resources on the one hand, which we use to fulfill those wants. And the problem is that, our human wants as individuals, things that we want, those wants are unlimited. Okay, they are infinite, but the resources which are available to fulfill these wants, they are limited. So even the richest of countries, even the most developed of nations, Even countries which have a lot of money, a lot of capital, they also are not able to fulfill all their wants all the time. Okay, so wants are unlimited and resources are limited. So there comes a problem of reconciliation. So how we reconcile, on the one hand, unlimited human wants, and on the other hand, there are limited means to fulfill those wants, right? So before we go further, we need to understand what are inputs, right? So inputs or economic resources, as we are talking about, resources are the means of producing the goods and services that we want. Okay, so if you have a want, so for example, you want a commodity, or you want a house, or you want education, whatever good or service that you are wanting, there have to be resources which will produce that good or service. Okay, so resources are nothing but inputs, and as inputs we can classify them into basically land, labor, and capital. So land refers to natural resource. Now land is of course a natural resource. Labor, which is the human resource, and capital, which is referring here to machinery, equipment, factories, tools. That is the capital which we are discussing here, right? So here we are just touching about the basic concepts of economics and how you can understand what all you will be studying in economics, particularly in microeconomics, as we go along. So this is basically an introduction of what things you are later on going to study. Okay, so the first thing, or the first, if I were to go back and recapitulate with you, the first thing is, which you should remember, the gist of this slide is that as humans, we have various wants, and for fulfillment of those wants, we need resources. Resources can be classified into land, labor, and capital. Of course, entrepreneurship is also there, which we'll discuss separately. And the main problem of economics is the problem of reconciling unlimited human wants on the one hand and limited resources to fulfill those wants on the other. Okay, so this is the first, the starting point of economics. Okay, what economics does, what it tries to do. Next is why sometimes you read that economics is a social science. So when we talk of sciences, you have physical sciences and you have social sciences. Okay, so economics is a social science because it is social and it is also a science. It is social because it studies the society, the people, human behavior, and it is a science because it uses scientific method to study these humans or these societal, behaviors. Okay, so Samuelson has said that economics is the queen of social sciences, and it deals with a very important aspect of human behavior and tells us how we deal with problems of scarcity. Okay? Scarcity, why? Because wants are unlimited, resources are limited. So economic attempts to explain economic behavior which arises when scarce resources are exchanged. Further, if we want to elaborate on scarcity, we should always remember that as resources always have alternative uses. That means a single piece of land, for example, you can do multiple things on that. It has alternative uses. It is not that you can only grow cotton or wheat on it. You can make a building on that, right? You can make a school on that land. You can make a shop on that land. You can also grow agricultural products on that land. Okay, so resources have alternative uses, and resources are limited. And because resources are limited, the amount of goods and services that any society can produce using those resources is also limited. When you have really limited resources, you cannot make unlimited products out of that. If inputs are limited, how can the output be unlimited? So because inputs or resources are limited, that is why output is also limited. And since the goods and services that can be produced by any society is limited, there comes the problem of choice. If we could make everything for everyone all the time, We would do that. We would not have to choose. But the problem of choice comes precisely because, in comparison to wants, which are unlimited, resources are always limited. So then, whose wants should be fulfilled? This you tell by exercising choice. Okay, so this leads to the problem of choice. What? The limitedness of resources in comparison to the infinite human wants. So, if human wants were limited or resources were unlimited, either ways, right? You're getting it? If the human wants were limited or resources were unlimited, there would be no scarcity. Whatever everybody wanted, everything could be produced for everyone all the time. So then there would have been no scarcity. And when there is no scarcity, there is no need for economics. The need for economics arises precisely because human wants are unlimited and resources are limited. So scarcity leads to choice. And in making this choice, economic theory helps us in making good choices, in making optimum choices, in making efficient choices. And that is what you will study in microeconomics all the time. How the consumer optimizes his demand function, how the producer optimizes his production function, how each individual agent in economics, whether it is a consumer or a producer, they respectively maximize their utility for themselves, right? So next we come to the branches of economics, which are two. You all know, I think, there is microeconomics and there is macroeconomics. That is the basic difference or division as far as economics is concerned. So microeconomic theory, we all know that it studies economic behavior of individual decision making units, whereas macroeconomic theory studies the total or aggregate level of output and national income. Okay, so if I am studying your personal income, it's a micro analysis or microeconomic study. But if I am studying the national income of the country, it is the in the domain of macroeconomics, right? So in microeconomic we are studying individual decision making units. So when I am studying a consumer, I assume that in other sectors, whatever is happening, I am not bothered with it. So that is a micro study. When I study the producer, I'm not, looking at what the consumer is doing. So at a time, my total attention is focused on one individual unit, that is microeconomics. But when we study the interaction of all these units, how households and firms and foreign sector and financial sector, all they interact, then we are talking about macroeconomics. We'll discuss about it later on also in terms of what are the other differences. The next important topic here is, as an introduction, which you should know, is that many times it is said that is microeconomics or is economics as a whole a positive science or a normative science? So before we answer that question, we need to know what is a positive science and what is a normative science. So a positive analysis always is in the what is sense. Okay, so it is realistic, it is factual. It is concerned with how the economic system performs the basic functions of what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, etc. Okay, so number one, it is factual, fact based. It is hypothetically testable, right? You can test it, and it is objective in nature. So personal opinions, value judgments do not enter into you know positive science when we treat economics as a positive science. The next type of science that can be is a normative science. And normative studies what should be, what ought to be, what should be. Okay, so it brings in your personal value judgments, because when you bring in the word should means that according to me, for example, I say that there should be a penalty for students absenting themselves in the class. Someone might say that no, there should be no penalty. So that becomes a difference of opinion, opinion based, judgment based, subjective. All these things come under normatives. Normative from norm. So what should be the norm? What should be value judgments?